Voicing the question, how do I become a tutor, is terrifying because it makes your inner thoughts a reality. People are now aware of what you're thinking, and that's huge. But it is a key question that needs to be answered, regardless of your background or your starting place. When a friend suggested that I had a go at tutoring back in 2012, my initial thoughts were that I couldn't because I'm not a qualified teacher. She pointed out that neither was she. My next excuse in my mind was that what if people judge me because I'm not a teacher? I was asked, what's the worst that could happen? I could fail and make a complete fool of myself. Okay, well, what's the best thing that could happen if you go ahead? I do a good job and get to help people achieve their goals in the way that works for them. As it turned out, over the years, as a company, we've supported hundreds of children to achieve their goals. Ask yourself, what is the worst thing that could happen if you decided to become a tutor? But then ask yourself what the best thing could be. And think about all those children who might have missed out because you didn't give it a go. What do tutors actually do? What tutoring entails varies considerably from family to family that you visit. Some families will ask you to support the child with their homework, others might need you to offer refreshers on how to do something. The next child might need something explaining from scratch. How you present this will also vary wildly. For some, it may be a provision of worksheets that you just allow them to work through. For others, you might, figuratively speaking, hold their hands and guide them through the worksheet, breaking it down and explaining it as you go. Other children may need something more interactive and creative to help them retain the information and knowledge. How you present your lesson will be at your discretion, though obviously if you work for a company or purchase a tutoring franchise, you will be expected to follow their systems. But the goal in any situation is that the child is feeling more knowledgeable and confident when you leave than they did when you started. The final sentence of that last paragraph is key. For virtually every child you ever work with, supporting them with their confidence, offering confidence and being patient is as, or potentially more important than any academic support that you can offer. One of the first lads I ever went to was supposed to be just for the summer holidays. They lived a good 45 minutes away from where we were living, and I was only charging £10. This is going back quite a few years. The first week I turned up, the mum invited me in, and the lad, who was about 4 or 5 years old, sat at a table with his head down, looking like he wanted to cry. I introduced myself and showed him the games I had with me. The mum had mentioned that he likes cars and maps, so I created a game where you moved around the street and answered the questions as you went. By the end of the first lesson, he looked quite proud of the stickers that he had earned. When I arrived the following week, he came to the door with his mum, though he was still stood sheepishly behind her. By week 3, he was sitting on the doorstep waiting for me. So many times, the conversations I've had with parents is about lacking confidence, and I'm sure that if we can boost their confidence in one area, it will trickle into other areas of their lives as well. Maybe by giving that encouragement is as important as the knowledge that we provide. Do you need qualifications to be a tutor? As it stands in the UK at the moment, no formal qualifications are required to become a tutor, which can be a double-edged sword, making it easier to commit to becoming a tutor, but devaluing what is offered, as many people perceive it as something done by students to earn a little extra money rather than a credible job. Although you don't need a teaching qualification, relevant experience or knowledge will be beneficial. You'll also need an up-to-date DBS check, and I'd also recommend having business liability insurance. Again, although no formal qualifications are required, qualities like patience, communication, and the ability to explain gently and clearly are hugely necessary. If you need to explain things a dozen times, so be it. We cannot get frustrated or annoyed. Instead, we need to look at ourselves and consider if we are just repeating ourselves or if we're explaining it differently each time. It can be challenging, but this is our responsibility to ensure that they understand it. We need to adapt to them and not to expect them to adapt to us. What subjects and ages can you tutor? Tutors are required for many subjects, although the core academic ones are the ones which are most widely sought after. So what are your key strengths and experiences? Could these be adapted to supporting a child through tutoring? You may choose to support a very niche subject, such as times tables or reading. This can be hugely powerful, as the times tables are at the foundations of nearly everything the child will later explore in maths. And with the UK government setting the multiplication times check, MTC, as a legal requirement for all Year 4 pupils registered at a state-funded maintained school, special school or academy, including free schools in England, the focus on timetables is huge. As mentioned previously, a DBS check if you're in the UK will be beneficial. Again, it's not compulsory, but many parents will ask to see it, and it provides evidence that you're both professional and trustworthy. Decide what level and what subjects you want to offer. Although you may not start as an Easter as purely offering times tables, you don't want to be too broad either. You want to become known as a specialist in the subject rather than a jack of all trades. An analogy that is often used is that if you're looking for a brain surgeon, you wouldn't go to a general practitioner. Although this is an extreme example, it emphasizes the logic. Where do you feel most confident starting, online or in person? Prior to lockdown, all of our lessons were done in the child's home. My logic was that if the child was expected to go to a new environment with a new person to study something that they felt they lacked confidence or ability in, they would be less likely to perform to their full potential. However, if we were able to eliminate just one of those, the unfamiliar environment, the child would be in a better mindset to learn. However, along came COVID, and during lockdown, we were no longer able to go into people's houses. So at this point, the business turned direction and started offering online lessons. It took a few days for them to be running smoothly, but we did it and it became a stronger business because of it. It means that we can now offer a two-tiered structure, either online or in the child's home. Once you have a plan in place, let people know that you're available, family, friends, school mums, etc. You may never know who it is that may be looking for something that you are offering. But what if you don't feel ready yet? Feeling nervous is normal. Starting something new is terrifying. The first lesson I ever went to, I was told to go to the crossroads at the end of the lane and turn left, keep going, and the cottage was right at the end of the lane. Simple. I followed the directions and pulled up outside this large house. It didn't look like a cottage, but I guess we all perceive things differently. And a lady came marching out of the house, and I explained to her that I'm Dawn, I'm the tutor, I'm here to see your daughter. And she told me I had the wrong house, and I apologized profusely as she clearly wasn't impressed that I was there. And I got back in the car. I was already a bag of nerves, and this just made it a whole lot worse. Well, now all I wanted to do was cry. I wasn't sure that I wanted to tutor anyway. What if I wasn't good enough? What if they shouted at me for not delivering what they wanted? What if, what if, what if? And as I pulled out of their drive, I noticed a small cottage tucked away behind some trees, and you can think that must be it. So now you've got the decision, should I knock or do I just drive home and get back in touch and explain that I'm not going to be tutoring after all, forget the whole stupid idea. But I got out of the car, grabbed my bag from the boot, put a smile on my face and knocked. And as they say, the rest of the story is history. I suspect you probably have your own motives, but building the business has been a series of small steps, helping one child and then another and then another. I've had mentors, I've joined communities where I could celebrate and rant. I've read books and taken courses. In themselves, many of the steps have been seemed fairly insignificant, but an accumulation of all the steps over the years has made the business something far bigger than I could ever have imagined. There are many misconceptions around tutoring. Tutors need to be perfect. To be honest, I would suggest that if you explain to a child that there are things that you're not sure about, but that you can explore them and learn them together, or that you can find out and you'll cover it in the next lesson, this demonstrates that it's actually okay not to know everything. I suspect there is no one person on this planet that knows absolutely everything. And again, there may be gaps in the curriculum that you're not familiar with, but that's again okay. You don't need to know the whole thing. We often don't follow the curriculum anyway, but instead what we do is we follow the needs of the individual. We focus on what they need and we work at their pace rather than following a generic syllabus or curriculum. This way we can go at their pace and focus in more depth on the areas that they're less sure about and need extra support on. Tutoring is bizarre, as some people perceive it that only ex-teachers can do this, whereas others perceive it as something that students do to earn a little extra money to support their studies. To be honest, neither is true. The biggest requirement is that you're patient and you're willing to offer the support in the way that is relevant to them. I've had some amazing teachers work with me over the years, but I've also had teachers who have struggled to work one-to-one. They are taught to teach to the masses, to the average child, rather than to the individual. The qualification isn't what's important. it's the attitude, the care, and the skills of the individual. Many tutors begin not because they want to become a tutor, but because they wanted to help. It may be that they went into a school class and listened to children reading and it grew from there, or that they helped their neighbour or niece, nephew, brother, sister, son, daughter, and it grew from there. It wasn't intended, it just happened. You never quite realize the impact that supporting a child can have and how that impact can have a ripple effect that can continue for years, impacting maybe the rest of their lives. A lad a couple of years back, it read, "Hi Dawn, I just wanted to say a huge, ginormous thank you for everything you've done for F. You have helped him so much in his maths and English, but for him it's more than that. Before starting with you, he was in a really bad place. He felt education wasn't for him and he had no hope of passing anything or achieving anything. But by teaching him maths in the way that he understands, he started to believe that he wasn't totally stupid and maybe he could pass. And then that spiraled as he got better at maths. He started thinking he could do better at other things, and it's really changed his whole outlook. I never thought I'd be sat here with him discussing A levels, let alone considering going to college after sixth form to study computing. He's like a different person, so a huge thank you from all of us, and we will let you know how he gets on. I hope you have a wonderful summer." I then had another message a couple of weeks later saying he got a level 8 in maths. So, what comes next? If you're still reading this, maybe tutoring is something that's calling to you and you are considering your next steps. Maybe that would be taking a course, joining a community, reading more to learn about what you're getting into. Either way, I wish you the best of luck